Hey friends, I hope the morning's treating you well. Life is all about choices. The things that we choose every day over the course of time will define us, so we have to choose wisely. Some of those are very large choices, and those are the obvious ones. Some of them are really small and tiny. Those are the ones that we let slide by a little too often. I'm going to talk a little bit about, it's choices that we make. I could go up here to the hotel lobby and get some coffee for free. It'd be all right, it'd be free, but I don't know. That's not the move today. I could go over here to the Clown and get some coffee. It's not bad, and it'd be cheap, but it's got that corporate aftertaste. You guys know what I'm talking about. Instead, I'm gonna go over here to this mom and pop coffee joint that you guys have been there with me before. We've made this choice before. And it's locally owned. I hand them the money. It's probably the owner taking the money. I get to support something local. The money stays here in the community. It's choices, little bitty choices that we make every day. That's the choice I'm going to make. Won't you guys come along with me? So some of you might remember the art installation that I had out here. It's all gone. The diehards remember. If you remember, tell me down below. And those of you who don't know what we're talking about, go back and watch an episode called We Can Do Better, and a lot of this will make more sense. Let's go get coffee. I always get a kick out of seeing tour buses parked out here. I always wonder what band it is. If it's a band or if it's just somebody doing some long-term parking. We're heading over here in the corner. That's where the coffee shop is. There's something beautiful about watching the sun rise up over the strip mall. Brings a tear to my eye. After a person's lived a little bit of life and they get some miles on them, maybe get a little bit of gray in their beard, you start looking back and noticing choices that you made that might have seemed really small at the time. You may not even realize you were making a conscious choice, but they had a huge impact on your life. I have a few of those. One is playing guitar. It would have been really, really easy for me not to play guitar. Had one sitting around there at the house and just to fumble around and learn a D chord and a G chord. It seems like nothing, but man, it changed my life in ways that I can't even describe. Ways I didn't realize. I was just a kid kicking around. I got obsessed with it. And it just opened up so many doors to an interesting world. But I was just a kid that wanted to strum a guitar, just picked it up and got curious with it. And that's a decision I made that altered the course of my life. Another one, when I met Amy, we met at a Bob Dylan concert. And I said hi, and then she started putting herself in places after that where we might run into each other, and I just got to talking to her and I liked it, and we started seeing each other, but it wasn't a decision for me. It just kind of was this natural thing that sort of happened, and but it was a choice. I didn't realize I was making a choice, but man, it had such a huge impact on my life in positive ways that I can't describe. I'm so positive. Some of you guys know what I'm talking about. Just something as simple as picking up a guitar and start playing it, or talking to some pretty girl, had a huge impact in so many positive ways. There's other instances when I decided to start a podcast. There's episodes somewhere back here in this big pile of videos where I go into all of the details. It would have been so easy for me not to do it. It would have been easier for me not to do it. It was this huge. That was actually a choice. I put a lot of thought into that choice, and I almost didn't do it. There were a lot of moments when I was like, I don't think I should do this. I was worried about embarrassing myself. What if I suck at it? What if people don't like it? Just all kinds of legitimate questions. But I thought, this is an investment in me. This is something I can do. I can share things about myself, things I like, and people out there. There might be people that like the same sort of things, and then we can share that together, and maybe a community can grow around it. And that's exactly what happened, only to a much larger scale than I ever would have imagined. it opened up so many things, just doing it in hotel rooms, doing it in airports, just wherever, backstage at venues, in a barn in Sweden once, recording these podcasts. But it was so hard and so much work, and it would have been so easy to not do it. But I invested in myself. That was a conscious decision. This is an investment in me. I won't make any money from it at all. I had no idea where money would come from. And sometimes if you're not going to make money from something, that's even a better reason to do it. So I just want to do it. It'll be fun. And I met so many great people. Some of you, discovered me and my music through that podcast. Thanks for Giving a Damn is what it's called. Look it up and subscribe to it. There's 150, 170 episodes somewhere in there. And that led to me getting the gig hosting Country Built on Pandora with 3 million subscribers. It's because they listened to my podcast and liked it. They listened to Thanks for Giving a Damn. So they brought me in, and I got to do like a history of country music thing. And it was the single most positive experience I've ever had in the music business, was working with them. And just the people is what it was. The people that I worked with on a day-to-day basis are just the nicest damn people. Super smart, extremely nice. It was the most positive experience I ever had in the music business. And how many people say that? There's not a lot of super positive experiences sometimes when it's on the business side. But it would have been easy for me to not just start talking into the camera in the middle of lockdown and a pandemic. But I was like, I needed to be distracted. There's so much ugliness in the world. And I just like, hell with it. I'll just talk to people. And it led to this. Whatever the hell this thing is, we're almost to 100,000 subscribers. That means 97,000, 98,000 people have chosen to click a subscribe button from something that I'm going to record in a hotel room in Nashville. It's a rundown hotel room where I've done so many of these. And people want that in their home. They want to have that as being part of their day. They start their Saturday mornings with that. And it'd been so easy to not do it. It'd been so much easier to not do it. All the work that goes into it. You guys get what I'm saying. And I think of all of those positive things in my life, and I try not to dwell on the negative things. Because, it's hard. It's hard to deal with some things, and if you just dwell on the negative, you just really got a boat anchor around your neck going through life, and you got to let go of that stuff. So I just don't think about the bad. I do my best not to think about it, and I get on with what I can do, what I can affect. How can I make this day better for me and everybody else? Is there a possible way to do that? That's what I try to think about. And sometimes I get too much coffee in me and I start rambling like that. But I think about that kid somewhere out there who got in a car with his friends, and maybe they were already up to some stuff they shouldn't be up to, but they realize about halfway through the car ride that their friends are going to rob a liquor store or something, or a Quickie Mart, and they make the choice to not say, let me out of the car, and they go along with it, and they end up doing a stretch in prison. Just that split-second decision. When you're a kid and your brain isn't even fully developed yet, and you make a bad decision. There's so many people like that in the world, and they live with those bad decisions. I'm lucky I never got put in that situation to where I might have made a bad decision. I don't know. I hope I wouldn't. I don't think I'm the kind of person who would, but do any of us think we're the kind of person that would? We're capable of a lot of things, but I'm fortunate about that. Now, there's a lot of lesser decisions that we make, like where we're going to get coffee. And to lighten this up just a little bit, I was recently reminded of when I was much younger and I was playing and I had crappy guitars and crappy amps, and you're wanting to get better stuff. This is where we start talking about gear. I wanted what I thought of as the sound that I liked about rock and roll, as far as amplifiers and such. I wanted an old Marshall, like a Plexi or something close to that from the late 60s, early 70s. I wanted a Marshall amplifier. I didn't like the ones in the 80s. I wanted the ones where the gold didn't go all the way across. I didn't like the JCM 800s or whatever. I thought they sounded like crap, but I liked that old one. I thought that was cool. And I liked the old Fenders, whether it's a silver face, the black panel, or the tweeds. I wanted that stuff. So it wasn't that expensive then, but I didn't have much money. Everything was way cheaper. I say the prices now, and I just like, why didn't I buy everything? But I didn't have any money. I was making $3.35 an hour at various really crappy jobs. And I would save up money, and I would see, and I would want to go buy this Marshall amplifier or this Fender Vibrolux or Bandmaster, or a Deluxe, whatever. And I would end up going to a music store, because you wouldn't see these. There wasn't the internet. There wasn't Reverb. You couldn't go on and just have a smorgasbord of whatever you want. It's whatever your local music store had. And those things didn't always come through. But the local music stores would often have some deal with a brand new amp maker. And when you walk in, they would tell you, well, this is just as good. It sounds just like a Fender. And look how much cheaper it is. It's brand new, ain't gonna break. This is just as good. Sounds just like a Marshall. Just look at it. It's great. And it's half the price. And I'd go ahead and buy it. And over a course of a couple months, just realized I didn't like it. It wasn't what I wanted. And I'd go, and then I'd fall for another. I'd buy some more Magic Beans that supposedly would be just as good, some brand new thing. I did this quite a few times, and then there's the moment when I sit back and think, I've chosen to buy these other things however many times, and if I add up the amount of money I've spent on these things, I could have bought two of what I wanted, and I just, at that moment, stopped and said, I'm never buying another piece of gear that isn't the thing I want. I'm never going to buy another thing that's supposedly just as good as, or it sounds just like, or whatever. And I had a big jug, the water bottles for an office, really big ones that are wide. And I just started, whenever I would go somewhere, I would come home, I'd take my change out and put it in there. Sometimes I'd throw a dollar bill in there when I could. Come home from work, had a job delivering pizzas, where every time I made change with somebody and I came back to cash out, I would keep all of the change. So in a jar going that night. So each night I'd dump that change into this thing that was my savings. And my very first Marshall amplifier I bought, it was a 69 100 watt with an 810 cabinet. It's the first one I ever bought. I bought, it's called the Trader. It was a paper in Indianapolis. I think it was kind of Craigslist sort of thing, except for it was a paper, newspaper type thing that you would pick up for free at different places around the city. And you'd look through and it was a one ads, all of it, stuff for sale, cars, you name it. But there's a music section, there's a Marshall amplifier. Went to meet the guy, and I was really hungry, and I bought a couple cheeseburgers right before we went over, and I ended up having less money than I thought I was going to have. So when I showed up, I think he wanted $500 for the head and the 810 cabinet, and I went over to give him. I'm trying to remember all of this. I ended up paying him $497 and two cheeseburgers is how much I paid for it. But all of that money came out of that little jug that I'd been saving. And that's how I got it. And I kept doing that. And then went to Guitar Town on the east side of Indianapolis, the Irvington neighborhood. And Bill Schaefer and Greg Lindholm. Who else was there? Bill owned it. I think Frank Dean owned it at one time. And man, there's something about these mom and pop guitar stores, and it's like this all over the world. You walk in, it's like locally owned, and there's that one person who's been part of the scene for a long time, maybe two or three of them, but they've been in that town, in that neighborhood, in that scene for like generations of players, and they're just the nicest, coolest cats ever. And they'll talk to you, you know, and you hand them the money. They knew I was broke. And I reached out to my cousin, Jesse, who's like my brother growing up, and I'm like, hey man, they got this Silverface Vibrolux there. That's pretty badass. What do you say we go in half on it? And I think it was $300. That tells you how broke I was and how lonesome that was. But we went in half, and man, I played hundreds of shows on that thing, and Jesse played shows on it, and I still have it. It's beautiful, great sounding amplifier. Absolutely love it. But it was what I wanted. I paid for what I wanted. I never, wished that it was the real thing or whatever, because it was the real thing. Yeah. There's other ones that have a little bit different styles and sounds to it, flavors. Like I bought a 63 Bandmaster. I paid $1,200 for the head, and the cabinet is blonde, matching, and had a reverb tank that was matching. Sounded godlike, and just stuff like that. I made the choices. I made all these wrong choices about getting the gear. Then I made the right choice. And then you keep it and play with it, and you're happy. You don't sit and wish you would have got something else. And I just had to work and save a little bit to get it. There's different versions, and things are way more expensive now. And some of you are saying, Otis, I couldn't touch what I want for less than $15,000 or whatever. And I feel for you. But the point stands. We may not be able to square that circle, but the point stands. And I was reminded about this for recently. I have this problem where when I go to walk around with my cameras, when I film things for this channel, the image stabilization is just terrible. It's non-existent. So it all gets a little wonky. So I end up doing a lot of tripod shots. I like the look of that. I'm completely fine with that. But in my Patreon area, like my Patreon supporters and channel members, I like put just behind the scenes videos of this and that. And there's times when I want to just go walk through a town when I'm there and show them that. But it just looks terrible and people get seasick watching it. So I don't do that as much. And I bought something that would supposedly do better with that. And I was like, well, it's not really, I kind of did this thing where it's not what I really need, but what I really need is expensive. This is less expensive, but it's supposedly just as good. I got it. I used it 3 or 5 times, and I just didn't like it, and I sent it back, and I sat and thought about it. I'm like, man, I just did that thing. I chose to get something cheaper that does not serve me in the way that I wish it would, and I did it again. So I'm reminded once again that I'm still learning and still growing. Before I jump out of here, I want to talk about a couple good decisions that I made. And I really see myself as a minimalist. I am frugal. I don't like spending money, which goes against, that's kind of why I would buy the cheaper thing back when. But I realize if you buy it once and it lasts a long time and it's what you want, sometimes it's all right to spend the extra money on it. You might be better off in the long run. That's kind of what I'm getting at here. And there's times, though, when I didn't have to spend very much money at all. I bought a belt at I used to see, a friend of mine had a belt like the Army ones that were, I think they were Army issue, but they were cloth. It's like this here. You see this little loop here? I don't know if you guys can see that. And it's made out of cotton or something. And buddy might had one, and I thought, yeah, I want to get one of those. And I'd see them at Army surplus stores, and they'd probably be $10, and I thought that was a lot of money. I went to a thrift store, and I went to a thrift store in Fountain Square in Indianapolis maybe 30 years ago, and I bought this for $1. And just recently replaced it because this part is getting so torn and frayed. It's kind of coming apart. It's the part that you lock up on the loop here, you put it through and then bring it back around, and it's just worn out and tattered. And so like 2 months ago, I bought another belt. But for 30 years, I've worn this every single day of my life. I mean, literally 30 years. And if you've seen me on stage, you know, anywhere in the United States, if you've seen me in England, Wales, Scotland, the Netherlands, Sweden, Norway, I could name so many places, I was wearing this belt. And you saw me opening for Billy Bragg, you know, or you saw me opening for Ian Hunter, or these videos. I was wearing this damn belt, $1 at a thrift store in Fountain Square 30 years ago. And that's value. I feel pretty good about that. It hurt to retire it, and I can't get rid of it. But I had it in my backpack here and thought I would mention it. And if you guys bought anything like that, maybe if you've made it this far, say belt down below. Just use belt in a sentence or something, or tell me your purchases like that. Here's another one. I think this is 26 or 28 years ago. I bought this backpack, just a green backpack, you know, for $1.50 at a thrift store at Irvington Plaza in Indianapolis. It doesn't exist anymore. The thrift store I got the other one at doesn't exist anymore either. But I paid $1.50 for this. And I used to carry I'd get books that I would read at lunch or whatever when I planted trees. And I would bring whatever in to like things to write on. There's no internet, had no cell phones or anything like that, so I would drag this along. And then after I stopped planting trees and started playing music for a living, I started dragging this along to gigs or on tour. And I put my laptop in here now, have for 15 years or so, but $1.50. It's kind of ugly. I don't really dig the green color and all of that, but it works. And I've had it for so long, why get another one, you know? It's $1.50 from a thrift store. You've seen me film some things for this channel at the Bain Strip Mall where that used to be. And one last thing before I get out of here. And have you bought something like that? You know, tell me about it. Or am I just crazy for having things like that? Well, this shirt, I used to plant trees in this shirt, you know. I haven't done that for 20 years. Haven't done that job. I have a bunch of shirts that I wore at work. And I have pants. If you've seen me live in the last 15, 20 years, I think there's a 99% chance I wore a shirt on stage that I used to wear to plant trees in, just a work shirt. And, you know, I don't know what I paid for it, but so I don't know. I'm pretty frugal that way. That might be a window into me. I'd be smarter to put more thought into some of that stuff, but, you know. But one thing I want to say, it's a rant that I go on that I think a lot of you can relate to. Thrift stores used to be such a magical, amazing, wonderful place when society looked down on those of us who would go shopping in thrift stores. There seemed to be this belief that you had to be poor and destitute, you know, to go to a thrift store. It just really was kind of looked down upon. So you could get amazing things, like so much great stuff at a thrift store for no money. I literally bought like a beautiful mid-century modern couch in great shape. I mean, it looked so cool, really stylized. I bought it for $1.50 at a thrift store in Fountain Square in Indianapolis, down from the Hi-Fi. It's not there anymore. Used to be able to buy things like that. You could go, I'd get Western shirts, cowboy shirts, go down to Nashville, give them KDKs. They'd put them on the rack. She'd give me like $20 for the shirt that I paid $1 for, and then she'd probably turn around and sell it for 35 or 40, I don't know. But you used to be able to find stuff like that. But then when Nirvana came along, that whole Seattle thing where people started wearing, I don't know, just thrift stores became cool. And everybody and their brother had permission to start going to thrift stores. And they became so picked through. It's hard to find things anymore. But man, you used to be able to find amazing, wonderful things. And you still can, but it just takes a lot more effort. A lot more effort. Some of you know what I'm talking about. I mean, there's whole YouTube channels about people going to thrift stores and how cool it is to do, which I should be doing one of those. That sounds a little easier than chasing people around for interviews. But anyway, I'm a little bit all over the map, but all of this falls under this umbrella of choices that we make. The big point of this is we all make choices, whether it be stupid little purchases we make at thrift stores, guitar amps, or something big like opening your heart up to where allowing someone to love you, and you love them back. And it happens in a split second and you may not even realize you made the choice, but your life will be permanently altered altogether. I talked about my cat Babs that I found on a tombstone in a cemetery in Illinois. There's a grave of Edgar Lee Masters. The town was maybe St. Petersburg, Illinois. And this kitten on this poet's tombstone. And I didn't want to take her home. I wanted to leave her there. I just didn't need a cat. Well, what am I going to do? But she was just being so nice to me. And you could tell she hadn't eaten. She was in bad shape. And I couldn't leave her there, so I took her home. And she ended up being one of my best friends for the next 16 years. And just absolutely beautiful. Loved her. I feel so guilty that I even thought about leaving her there. But, my life was, the choice of bringing her home made my life so much better. Sitting and having coffee in the morning with Babs. And she passed away during the pandemic. And I've talked about that before. But in the darkness of all of that, I just started talking to people here on YouTube. Just to put a message in the bottle, throw it out into the ocean, and see if anybody found it. And some of you guys found it, and I appreciate that. And a lot of you guys subscribed and keep watching, and that's beautiful. But just another choice. Anyway, I'm in a hotel room in Nashville by myself, and I'm going to choose to go outside and enjoy a little bit of the sun and try to have a good fun day. I hope you guys have a good fun day. And leave me a comment down below and subscribe if you never had. And think about joining my Patreon or channel members if you want to, but you don't have to. Either way, I'll talk to you soon. Much love to you.